G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Gaming Legends, the show where violence is always the answer, but never the solution. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle is a crossover tactical RPG, and the game that finally broke the Mario can't use guns rule. I guess if Nintendo won't be the law enforcement, I'll have to do it myself. Can you beat Mario plus Rabbids without shooting? For the purposes of this run, any gameplay action that uses a primary weapon is completely banned. This means no blasters, no bwarbs, no precisions, no boom shots, and no rumble bangs. Anything that isn't a primary weapon is allowed, though I'm going to come out right now and declare all DLC, including amiibos, completely off limits. We're doing this run with the $60 worth of content that comes on the cartridge. And finally, extra health mode is also banned. The run is complete when we win the final boss battle. Without further ado, let's start the game.
Unfortunately, a truly shotless run is outright impossible because of the tutorial. The first battle disables all commands except for the primary weapon. We can use other actions when replaying the chapter with the washing machine, but we can't get to the washing machine in the first place unless we've already beaten the chapter. Our only hope would be to somehow find an out of bounds glitch and skip the battle entirely, but that's a question mark in itself. So I'm turning this into a minimalist run, trying to fire as few shots as possible. There are two Ziggies we have to shoot, and they each die in one hit, so that theoretically means we can clear the battle in only 2 shots. However, one of the Ziggies is behind partial cover. Normally that means a 50-50 chance to hit them from that side, but this particular Ziggy is scripted to always dodge the first shot made against it. That means we have to fire 1 extra shot, leaving us at 3 shots total.
With valid cause to revoke Mario's firearm license, we can now take advantage of the court-mandated main character, Beepo. By moving to an enemy's location, you can perform a dash attack. It's pitifully weak compared to the actual weapons, especially this early in the game, but it's all we've got for the time being. Rabbid Luigi has the highest dash damage in the early game, but also the lowest HP, so keeping him alive should be your priority. Dashing has no effect on your movement range, so you can make the dash and then immediately hide behind cover for the enemy's turn. And since you can walk around cover every time you attack, the enemies have nowhere to hide. However, you have to practically already be in the enemy's attack range in order to dash into them. Your best bet is to focus on one enemy at a time and stay in a close group.
Chapter 1-4 sees us unlock our primary techniques. Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Luigi get shield and super barrier respectively, allowing them to tank more damage and, for the latter, nullify critical effects. Mario, meanwhile, gets Hero Sight, giving him a free attack against anyone who walks funny. However, when using this technique, Mario attacks using his blaster, and his currently equipped primary weapon is used for the damage calculations. Thus, Hero Sight and all its equivalents are completely illegal. That said, I do recommend activating Hero Sight in a situation where it's impossible to trigger it, as you can then use the cooldown period to prevent misclicks. Chapter 1-4 itself was also a pretty big roadblock. Since you're supposed to have access to stronger weaponry by this point, the enemies are stronger and more plentiful. You're almost guaranteed to take a lot of damage in the first battle, with no opportunity to heal afterwards. The second battle is absolutely impossible if you don't go in with enough health. My final successful attempt started with 105 HP on Mario, 135 on Peach, and 50 on Luigi. The hoppers are especially dangerous, having almost twice as much health as the Ziggies, twice the attack power, and twice the ability to hit you from anywhere. Your success will be largely based on RNG, but partway through I found a way to abuse the AI behavior. Enemy attacks will prioritize any character in their range who isn't behind cover, and Rabbid Peach's shields will make those attacks much more durable. After plenty of trial and error, I finally managed to clear the battle with exactly 1 HP left. We're not out of the woods yet though, as seen in the very next chapter. Rabbid Plant is still susceptible to dashing, but is also extremely good at lighting you on fire and being a mile away while doing so. I recommend taking out the smaller enemies ASAP. The plant shots are explosive, so use that to help. You'll also want your whole party at full health, which is easier said than done thanks to the presence of a previous battle. There is a mushroom right before the fight, but it didn't help much with KO'd units. However, while taking a break to transfer footage to my computer, I stumbled upon a game-breaking discovery. The save file keeps track of the health restored from a mushroom, but not the mushroom itself. If you restart the battle and then immediately quit to the main menu, the mushroom will respawn when you load your save file, effectively giving you infinite healing. You're almost guaranteed to get hit every turn, so split up your party and make sure his target is either shielding or has high health. The plant is smart enough never to fire if you're within 2 spaces of him, but if he's standing next to a burn box, you can still trick him into blowing it up. With the plant thoroughly uprooted, we unlock the most important character in this entire run, the skill tree. This lets us purchase upgrades using power orbs, which are earned at the end of each chapter or found in treasure chests. The 2 upgrades I recommend prioritizing for each unit are movement abilities and secondary weapons. Secondary weapons give us a viable option for extra damage, but can't be used 2 turns in a row and are capable of friendly fire. Also, Mario's hammer can only be used from 1 space away from the target, leaving you a sitting duck if you don't get a kill shot. For this reason, you should never purchase a hammer that comes with the honey effect. Movement abilities, meanwhile, give each character an extra skill when moving. Most of these allow you to damage multiple enemies in 1 movement turn, or add an extra effect when dashing or team jumping. In particular, Llewellyn can jump twice in 1 turn, which will be extremely helpful in reach area missions. You'll also want to buy the secondary techniques like Empower and max out the dash damage upgrades, but don't bother with the high ground bonus except for Rabbid, Luigi or Yoshi. You can also forego all hero side upgrades as well as Mario's mushroom heal, since we can just glitch heal indefinitely. Chapter 1-6 was the perfect place to test out Mario's Stomp and Louise's Sentry, with the second battle having plenty of cover and a non-discriminatory chain chomp. 1-7 and 1-8 were similarly simple, and I even managed to get gold trophies on them. Then we get to Rabbid Kong. Unlike mid-bosses, major bosses are immune to dash attacks. Not only that, but Rabbid Kong is impossible to reach with the hammer or sentry since there's no solid ground in front of him. The only way to deal any damage is with Rabbid Luigi's rocket. On top of that, the Kong will constantly heal with bananas until we cut him off, which requires someone to stand on the button, a risky venture in and of itself. But the button can also be triggered by a sentry. I recommend Rabbid Peach to stay alive longer. Whatever you do though, do not let Rabbid Luigi die or the battle is forfeit. It'll take about 30 turns, but if you're careful, there's nothing stopping you from setting up the DLC. The first half of World 2 was relatively uneventful, but the boss fight against Blizzy and Sandy took a few tries. All the enemies here have villain sight, which is especially dangerous when combined with Sandy's burn-inducing grenades. Blizzy has half as much health, so prioritize taking him down along with a few Ziggies. Once Blizzy thaws, be extra careful around Sandy. He's not very smart though, and you can often trick him into blowing himself up with his own grenades if he hits you too close. The rest of World 2 was simple, though at one point I misclicked and accidentally fired Lulu's precision at a buckler. The shot only hit the shield and thus was functionally no different than if I hadn't fired, but I didn't realize that until after I'd already reset. The fight against Icicle Golem swaps out your third player for Peach, and unlike other units, she was smart enough to bring her own upgrades. Peach's Grenade Duck is fully capable of penetrating shields, as are all non-hammer secondaries. I recommend using Rabbid Peach's Sentry as it provides a decent distraction for villain sights. Just remember that his shots can still freeze you with splash damage. World 3 introduces Peekaboos, the most annoying enemy type in the game. Peekaboos can teleport around the map at will and have insane attack range, meaning you can almost never hit them while they can almost always hit you. They're easily distracted by sentries, but they'll go down quicker with rockets and grenade ducks. Whatever you do though, make sure you have one of each available at all times. The hard part came at Chapter 3-4. The first battle is a reach area mission with a lot more enemies than usual. There's a gigantic shortcut you can take right at the start with enough team jump range upgrades, which is especially useful when combined with Lucas's double jump and itchy feet abilities. You might not have enough orbs to get these upgrades yet, but you can always redistribute them at any time. There's a mushroom near Madame Bwahpera, so use it to heal everyone infinitely with the same trick as before. The second battle has a bunch of ridiculously strong smashes and ridiculously evasive peekaboos. It took me a few tries, but eventually I found a strategy with Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Luigi. Use sentries and rockers to keep the peekaboos at bay while stomping and hammering the smashes. The smashers can use M-Power to boost their attack strength, so use Rabbid Luigi's Weaken to counteract it whenever possible. I also recommend using the Vamp Dash as the first attack for free healing. Eventually, I banked the gold trophy and claimed my prize, a Boo-like spherical helium container. Immediately after that was Calavera. Using Rabbid Yoshi's powers against us is bad enough, but I honestly had more trouble with the secondary enemies. I used basically the same strategy as the previous battle, but even so, it still took a few tries. Healing with Vamp Dash isn't just a good idea now, it's practically required. Calavera does have a shield, but all it really does is decide which way you can't use a hammer, and it has no effect on the diagonals.
After turning him from undead to regular dead, the next few battles, while not a cakewalk, took far fewer attempts. I almost died on 3-7, but then one of the smashers got caught in its ally's crossfire with a vampire effect. This allowed Rabbid Mario to heal, mop up, bank the trophy to complete the chapter, and are you serious? The game froze! Thankfully, the game actually saves at the trophy screen, so this was only a minor inconvenience. The Phantom is normally a pushover, with Lucario taking long-range precision shots from high ground, but in a shotless run, he's practically useless. As usual, focus on killing the smaller enemies first, vamp dashing whenever possible. The Phantom can't be damaged while any of the spotlights are active, so don't waste any attacks on him. If one of Rabbid Peach's sentries will always hit the Phantom regardless, it might be a better idea to save it for a later turn. Also, be aware that his Stone Deaf ability doesn't actually trigger until you start moving. A really good way to waste a turn if you're not careful. When the current phase is low on health, bring all your non-attacking units to the location of the next spotlight, letting you rack on the damage that much quicker. After just a handful of attempts, you should be able to bring down the final curtain. Before entering World 4, I decided to go back to the previous worlds to complete the secret chapters for more power orbs. The end game is going to get pretty tough, especially without any health upgrades. In the first two worlds, I was so overleveled that the enemies barely lasted a single turn, sometimes literally. The second half of 3-S wasn't quite so easy, but I still managed to just barely meet the turn limit for the gold trophy. The first chunk of World 4 was relatively simple, especially Chapter 4-2. Seriously, Lugia's movement is absolutely broken. The difficulty does ramp up as the world progresses though, culminating in Mecha Jr. This is the most feared boss fight of any M+R player. Jr is able to get a free movement turn and a free attack every time you hit him, and is equipped with a Sentry and Magnet Dance, neither of which have cooldown, and losing the battle forces you to restart the entire chapter. And the gold trophy requires you to beat him in 3 turns, which, God no! Use Rabbid Luigi and Rabbid Mario with a Vampire Hammer to get through the first battle, making sure normal Mario has as much health as possible. Once you arrive at Junior proper, swap them out for Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Yoshi with a fully upgraded outer shell. The shell will allow Yoshi to tank a hit for basically 0 damage and do so twice. Whenever possible, try to coax Junior into stepping onto his own sentry. Not only does this deal free damage, but he also won't be able to move any farther. Play it safe and you'll eventually unlock the original dinosaur. Which I temporarily threw in the trash because the next chapter was an escort mission. Ludwig's Itchy Feet makes Spawny's movement much longer, and he's mutually exclusive with Peach and Yoshi. Even so, it took me quite a few attempts, largely due to my own idiocy. I made another misclick in Chapter 4-7, but the shot only hit an indestructible cover block, so we're good. While I wouldn't call them easy, the battle against Wario and Waluigi was beaten in 1 attempt. Then we get to Chapter 4-8.
Battle number 1 is fairly standard, and battle number 2 can be cleared in a single turn using Empower, Super Chance, Magnet Dance, and a Hammer. However, we're then immediately thrust into battle number 3 against an uncomfortably large horde, and the fight against Lava Queen immediately after that. Lava Queen is already difficult enough on her own, but she's very much not on her own. In more bad news, dead units aren't revived with 10 HP between battles like usual. If you let Mario die at any point, you'll be one man short for the entire rest of the chapter. In double bad news, losing any of these battles forces you to restart from the beginning of battle number 2, meaning you have to be practically flawless. And in triple bad news, the nearest mushroom is in a block puzzle that you have to solve all over again every single time you want to use the glitch heal. On battle number 3, I recommend using Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Yoshi for their shields, spending the first turn taking out large groups with Grenaducks, Sentries, and Hammers. Keeping Mario alive should be your highest priority, so use Rabbid Peach as a bodyguard for him. Once you reach Lava Queen, swap out Rabbid Yoshi for Rabbid Luigi and use Vamp Dash at every single opportunity. Wario does have villain sight, so make sure he always hits either a sentry or a shielding character. Once the healing supporter is down, focus entirely on Lava Queen herself. Her main attack has a chance to vamp you in return, potentially allowing everyone on her team to heal. If you get honeyed by Waluigi, you can get rid of it either by using a team jump, or by accidentally lighting yourself on fire like an idiot. After a literal montage of failed attempts, I finally forced the Lava Queen to abdicate. There's only one stop left on our quest. The final boss, Mega Dragon Bowser. My recommended team here is Rabbid Luigi and Rabbid Yoshi, with fully upgraded Vamp Dash, Super Barrier, and Outer Shell, their strongest secondaries, and at least half of their health and movement range upgrades. Focus the majority of your attacks on Bowser himself, leaving the minions as Vamp Dash fodder. In Phase 1, Bowser uses Villain Sight every other turn, so make sure you always have Yoshi take the hit with his shell. You'll still catch on fire, but the damage will be non-existent. In Phase 2, Bowser flies around the outside of the map, preventing you from using hammers or sentries, hence Rabbid Peach's absence. Once the bucklers spawn, he'll use protection on them, which actually lets you damage Bowser without actually hitting him. This won't be reliable forever though, so you should use rockets and Grenaducks on Bowser himself whenever the opportunity presents itself. And if possible, try to pull them off on the same turn as each other so you can boost both of them with Mario's M-Power, making the battle take slightly fewer lifetimes. And once all the minions are gone, the only real threat to your health is the fireballs, which always land in the exact same spot every turn. Phase 3 is probably the most stressful. Bowser can only be damaged after he hits a black cover block with the Whirling Fortress. This destroys the block in the process, and they don't regenerate, putting the battle on a soft time limit. If you have the ability to blow up his face, you must do so immediately. I had all 3 party members alive, and he destroyed about half the blocks before receiving one final hammer to the noggin. With the Mega Bug thoroughly patched out of existence, the Mario plus Rabbids no-gun run is officially conk. Oh, right, we fired 3 shots back in the tutorial. Speaking of which, if anyone has any ideas for skipping the first battle, please let me know. We are so close to making this run perfect, but I'd say not firing a single shot since then is an accomplishment on its own. Also, shout out to Plushy Kale, who did their own version of this challenge a few years back. I wasn't even aware of it until I was almost done with the run, but it's worth acknowledging anyway. If you want to watch my own run, I've uploaded in its own playlist without commentary. Links are in the description. And before anyone comments about it, I do plan on continuing this challenge in the Donkey Kong Adventure DLC. Subscribe so you don't miss it. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.